My head is full of blood. George.
These 80s movies went so far that entire countries tried to erase them. One was so disturbingly convincing that the director had to march his dead actors into court just to prove they were still breathing. Another was seized in over 30 countries. These are 10 most brutal 80s exploitation movies that got banned. Number 10, Tenement.
Slice them up. Shoot them up.
Tenement takes something as simple as a worn-out Bronx apartment block and turns it into a trap. A gang has basically claimed the stairwells and hallways. The tenants finally snap, call the police, and watch the crew get marched out in handcuffs. For a moment, it feels like the nightmare's over. Then night hits. The gang comes back, bolts the doors, kills the phones, and turns every floor into payback. From there, it's just panic, bad decisions, and people trying to stay alive one room at a time. Nobody looks heroic. Everyone looks scared, tired, and way out of their depth. Ratings boards hated that. The tone felt so abrasive it nearly got an X rating in the US, just for sheer nastiness, and it was trimmed down to escape it. In the UK and parts of Europe, it landed on restricted lists and quietly vanished from shelves. If you're ready for some more truly horrific films, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Number 9, Cannibal Ferox.
Cannibals! They attacked us. We gotta get out of here. Come on. Pat, get my gear.
Cannibal Ferox is the jungle movie that tried to outdo every shock story before it. A student heads into the Amazon with 2 friends to prove tales about savage tribes are just prejudice. On the trail, they run into another group of outsiders who've treated the locals like background props, and that's when the trip stops being academic and turns ugly. The film leans into the idea that when visitors act like they own everything, the place eventually bites back. It lingers on fear, payback, and people realizing too late they're not in control. On top of that, it shows real harm to animals, which even hardened horror fans saw as crossing a line. Censors had an easy target. The film was seized or refused in over 30 countries, and heavily re-edited where it was allowed. Critics called it empty and mean-spirited. Number 8, Nightmares in a Damaged Brain.
You lose a dangerously psychotic patient from a secret experimental drug program?
Nightmares in a Damaged Brain spends almost its entire running time inside one unstable mind. A man is released from a psychiatric hospital after doctors decide he's ready for the outside world. He tries to start fresh, but his head is full of scattered images, half-remembered moments, and dream logic that keeps bleeding into his day. The film keeps jumping between ordinary scenes and sudden flashes of past trauma, so you're never sure what's happening now and what's just replaying in his imagination. That constant sense of a looming breakdown is the real shock. You're always waiting for something ugly or dangerous to happen, and the movie doesn't give you much relief. In the UK, it became a prime target during the Video Nasties scare. Copies were seized, distributors dragged into court, and it was held up as an example of harmful home video. Marketing noise didn't help. The producers bragged about Tom Savini's effects, while he later downplayed his role. The New York Ripper drops you into a version of early 80s New York that feels like it's falling apart in slow motion. Lucio Fulci follows a burned-out detective hunting a killer who targets women across the city's back streets. You're dragged through empty subway cars, tired hotel rooms, sleazy clubs, and rain-slicked sidewalks that all feel one step from shutting down. The movie's shock doesn't just come from the attacks, but from its attitude. The killer calls the police in a strange duck-like voice that should be silly, but just makes everything feel wrong and off balance. In the UK, it was refused a certificate and effectively banned for years. Elsewhere, prints were cut, blurred, or trimmed to soften the blow. It never became a big theatrical hit, but the people who saw it either hated it or couldn't stop talking about it. Number 6, Combat Shock.
Meet Frankie Dunlop, decorated war hero, ex-prisoner of war.
Combat Shock replaces monsters with overdue bills, ruined streets, and a man who's completely out of options. Frankie is a Vietnam veteran stuck in a collapsing corner of Staten Island, living in a tiny apartment with his partner and a child affected by what he was exposed to overseas. There's no money, no support, and no easy way out. Every day he wanders past wrecked buildings and hostile faces, trying to scrape together food and rent while the walls keep closing in. The movie's shock comes from how far it's willing to follow him down. It doesn't blink at his lowest moments or sand down the ending to make anyone feel better. Some critics at the time called it punishing and too bleak to sit through. Others argued it was one of the few films honestly showing how veterans and the very poor get left to sink. Censors didn't know where to put it. Too harsh for mainstream drama, too serious for simple exploitation. It was cut in some places and ignored in others. Among cult fans, it's now remembered as a rough, angry howl from the margins. Number 5, Devil Hunter.
He'll pay, you can bet your life he'll pay.
Why don't we send him a piece of her? That'll convince him to pay up.
Devil Hunter is jungle exploitation with the brakes cut. Jesus Franco mixes a hostage plot, a remote island, and a local belief in a towering blind spirit that demands living offerings. A team of outsiders arrives to negotiate a ransom and quickly realizes they have wandered into a place where none of their usual power matters. The story mostly exists to move from one uncomfortable situation to the next. You get rituals, chases through thick brush, and long stretches where the camera seems more interested in exposed skin and panic than in telling a tight story. The whole thing has a sweaty, half-improvised energy, like you're watching raw footage nobody bothered to tidy up. When it hit UK video shelves, watchdogs noticed fast. Devil Hunter landed on the video nasties list, meaning tapes were seized and distributors questioned. For many viewers, it became the definition of trash cinema, clumsy, tasteless, and excessive. Number 4, Anthropophagus. Anthropophagus, also known as the Grim Reaper, feels like a holiday gone wrong that never finds its way back. A small group sails to a bright Greek island expecting sun and relaxation. Instead, they step into silence. Houses sit half-used, doors hang open, food is left out, and no one seems to be home. As they wander the empty streets and crumbling lanes, they realize someone is watching them from a distance. That someone is a shipwreck survivor whose idea of staying alive has drifted into something deeply unsettling. The film's reputation hangs on a few infamous scenes where it fully commits to showing how far he's willing to go. Those moments shocked even seasoned horror fans, and word spread fast. In the UK, it was pushed onto the video nasties list and often refused outright, with imported copies chopped to remove the worst of it. Number 3, Possession.
A woman possessed, and then I see you again, and all this disappears.
Possession starts like a vicious breakup and spirals into something that doesn't fit neatly into any genre. Set in West Berlin, it follows a couple whose marriage has completely fallen apart. He suspects an affair. She insists something is wrong that she can't explain. Their arguments are loud, messy, and emotionally exhausting from the first scene. Even before the story takes a stranger turn, the performances feel almost too intense to be comfortable. Then the film starts to twist. There's a second apartment, mysterious absences, and hints that the wife is involved with something that isn't just another partner. The famous subway tunnel scene, where she seems to completely lose control in a sterile tiled corridor, became legendary. Not especially graphic, but emotionally volcanic. Audiences in 1981 didn't know what to do with it. Some walked out. Others argued about whether it was brilliant or deranged. In the UK, it ended up alongside splatter films on prosecution lists and was cut or suppressed for years. Number 2, Men Behind the Sun. Men Behind the Sun is one of the few 80s exploitation films where the horror leans directly on documented history. T.F. Moe's 1988 film focuses on Unit 731, a real covert branch of the Japanese military during World War II. We follow young recruits arriving at what they think is a remote training base. Slowly, they realize they're inside a facility built to test human limits under extreme conditions, all wrapped in the language of research and duty. The movie is shot with a flat, almost clinical eye. Long, still takes, minimal music, and a matter-of-fact tone make it feel less like a conventional horror film and more like a reconstruction. Many of the scenarios draw from survivor accounts and reports that surfaced decades after the war, which makes them harder to shrug off. Censors around the world reacted strongly. Some countries banned it outright. Others cut it so aggressively that whole sequences vanished. Critics were split between calling it exploitative and calling it necessary. Early audiences often left in silence or didn't make it to the end. It offers no hero, no easy catharsis, just a slow, steady look at what people did behind closed doors. Number 1, Cannibal Holocaust.
Yes, sir. I recognize these teeth. This is Filippo Cagna.
Cannibal Holocaust is the crown jewel of banned 80s exploitation, and not in a good way. Released in 1980 by Ruggero Deodato, it uses a found footage style long before that was a trend. A team goes into the Amazon to find a missing documentary crew and instead recovers their film reels. What we see is that footage, the original crew staging cruel set pieces, stirring up trouble, and treating local people as props in their own shock movie. Eventually, their behavior comes back on them in ways they never planned. The handheld look, rough performances, and location shooting made it feel disturbingly real. Italian authorities were convinced enough to arrest Deodato and accuse him of filming actual deaths. He had to bring his actors into court to prove they were alive. The movie also includes real harm to animals, which fueled protests and bans. It was pulled or cut in country after country, with some regions still limiting access. Horror fans remain split between seeing it as harsh media criticism or as a line that should never have been crossed. If you had to choose just one of these for a late-night watch, which would you dare to put on, and which one do you think should have stayed buried? Let us know in the comments below. And if your picture of 80s cinema just got a lot darker, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There are plenty more notorious forgotten films waiting in the shadows.